Hi there, everybody. We're joined this afternoon, as it is in the UK, by Bogdan Gita, who is Associate Dean International for the Faculty of Science and Engineering and an Associate Professor of Network Performance and Security. The format, as always, for these 10 questions videos is that Toby and Toby is Student Experience Officer here at the college at UPIC. I'm the Director of Marketing and Admissions. So Toby and I will just alternate going through the 10 questions with Bogdan, and he's going to share with us the benefit of his knowledge and his experience. And hopefully that will all be, no, not hopefully, I'm sure it will all be of great interest to those of you watching this video. So Bogdan, could you please just start by telling us a little bit about your background, how you came to choose Plymouth as a place to live and as a place to work?
Thank you very much, Tim. I started my academic path in Romania. I'm a Romanian undergraduate. I've got a bachelor's in traffic engineering and data. So back then it was telephony. There was a bit less internet when I did my undergraduate degree. However, during the course of the degree, I discovered networking and liked it very much. Then an opportunity appeared to start studying for my PhD at Plymouth in what was back then IP data mining. So again, big data and studying of networking. So loved it and loved it ever since.
Fantastic.
Great, thanks.
Bogdan, can you tell me what are the 3 things you like best about Plymouth?
It's something, if you asked me this question 20 years ago, I might have had a different answer. But first of all, the fact that it's peaceful. So I grew up in Bucharest, which is a pretty large city and slightly noisy one. And I still love Bucharest and I go there with great pleasure. But in Plymouth, it just takes a few minutes to get from city centre to seaside. It gets the same amount of time to get to Central Park. Basically, everything is within reach and you don't have the challenge of huge amounts of traffic and huge amounts of crowds to go through, to swim through. That'll be the first one. Then perhaps if somebody hears about Plymouth, one wouldn't think about, well, it's a student city, but it is. It's actually about, sort of statistically, about 1 in 10 people in Plymouth is a student, and the city itself goes a bit quieter during the summer. So I actually like very much the student buzz and the student atmosphere throughout it. And finally, the location, geographical location. So it's very close to Cornwall, to Dartmoor. I was not quite into sports. I wasn't at all the sporty type when I came to Plymouth, and things like running, nature walking or bodyboarding really sounded like alien things to me. But now I'm almost dependent on them. So I grew up to like them very much.
Great, thanks, Bogdan. And then moving on, what are the 3 things you like best about the university?
So because there are no rules, I can use one of the previous answer again. I really like the student atmosphere, and I like the weather in Plymouth in the summer, but the campus looks a bit quieter and a lot less lively. So I like when the students are coming back. So student atmosphere would be the first one. Then the location. I've seen plenty of campuses out there where the campus is pretty much in the middle of nowhere, which might be an advantage or might be something that people prefer. The Plymouth campus is right against the city centre, so it's everything is within reach. And also, one thing that perhaps not many students realise, I get asked a lot whether accommodation is on campus, and UK campuses are not designed like the American ones, so you wouldn't have accommodation necessarily on campus, but accommodation is as close to campus as possible. I mean, the only students that I know traveling to campus by public transport are the ones who are local, so might be living more than half a mile away. Other than that, everybody walks to campus.
Fantastic. And what would you tell your younger self about being a successful undergraduate student?
Now, I've got a couple of things on this one, and I really hope that the applicants out there listen. Do maths. So do as much maths as you can, and then do some more maths, because it won't hurt you. It will hurt you later on if you don't do maths. Trust me, do maths. And the other one is do not procrastinate. Try, when you have a task, do not delay. Don't leave it till tomorrow. Don't talk about it. Just do it. Just get on and do it.
I try not to procrastinate, but I keep putting it off for some reason. Bogdan, next question. Would you say that Plymouth, the city and the university, is it a welcoming environment for international students?
I believe so. I mean, I was myself an international student, and perhaps for the first minute or so, it was all of a sudden getting into a new place. It felt very strange and very, I wouldn't say unwelcoming at all, but it was just a new place for the first few minutes. But Plymouth, in the area where the students live, and when I was living as a student and later on even as a lecturer, it's surrounded, is full with students. So I think students are just part of the fabric. Like 50 years ago was brought to life through the dockyard, but 200 years ago was brought to life through seafaring. So it's what drives the city, what's part of the city at the moment. So I think it is definitely a place where international students feel at ease, feel pleasant, because it's not designed for one type or another type of students. They're all students and they're all joining together, and the city almost so it congregates around them.
Brilliant, thank you. I think, Toby, you've got a couple of questions more about Bogdan's specialist subject area.
Yes, I'm going to change one of them. So I'm going to throw you a little bit, Bogdan. And I'd want to know what excites you about big data. I know that's a very broad question, but obviously as we have more courses that align with that subject particularly.
That's absolutely fine. That's absolutely fine. My PhD was in something called IP data mining, which, knowing a Plymouth background, I thought I'm going to end up in a mine sort of digging for data. But it was just like 20 years ago. It was all about finding information, finding knowledge in data. And I think it's just a different way of approaching it. But nowadays, given that AI, given that computing power is developing so much, it's a pity not to use this data. And I think that the next stage will be to lose, essentially, and I think a certain precedent from the recent past would love it, we will almost lose the experts, because all the experts have is access and knowledge to the previous data. The data will be there and will be accessible by anyone. I'm not saying everyone will become an expert, but expertise will be available to everyone for a far lower price and far more usable.
Okay, thank you. And you're an associate professor of network performance and security. What do you think will be the next big developments in network security?
It's already happening. I was talking about AI, and I think there is no escape from it. I mean, we started with, as I was mentioning, experts, moving to expert systems, moving to programming, and now it's AI. Basically, we're presenting systems, we're making systems which are becoming more intelligent, learning from their mistakes. And this is exactly what's going to happen what is happening already in network security. So rather than have people to monitor networks, to learn from the issues, we'll have equipment that will learn by itself. Of course, this will be counterbalanced equally by hackers and by the other side that will try to do the same. But I think there will be a far better fight in the future due to AI.
Thank you. How important are environmental and sustainability issues to people who live, work, and study in Plymouth?
Well, it's actually part of what we are, because Plymouth itself is a very green space. So I tend to forget about it walking through Plymouth until I meet with students or visitors that remind me how clean the air is. Which I think, of course it is, but no, that's something to notice. I work in a smart building myself. I'm in Portland Square, that does all sorts of gimmicks and records all sorts of data to make itself more efficient. We're increasingly adding smart features to our campus, reducing our carbon footprint. And this is just something that we do naturally. It's not forced on anyone. It's just everybody does their bit. And I would say that one of the I would say fortunate byproducts of COVID was that it brought us all closer through technology rather than through modern transport. So we definitely contributed a bit. We did our bit by staying at home, not traveling, and reducing our carbon footprint.
Great,
thank you. When students are thinking about what they're going to study, where they're going to study, they're often thinking ahead, and it's a link in a chain that could lead to a future career. So thinking about careers, what kind of exciting careers can students who graduate from your faculty expect to go into in their futures?
I might be slightly biased by my own area, by computing, because I've been keeping in touch with graduates, and it's the entire spectrum from little names that became more famous afterwards, data processing AI companies, to large names like IBM and Microsoft, to always recognizable. We actually have graduates that used to work, I'm not quite sure, I can check, at Buckingham Palace, not doing anything to do with royalty, but doing things to do with their IT infrastructure. We have actually got graduates all over the world and in all the areas, helping, supporting the progress of mankind. And I think this is not a direct drive. It's actually one thing that we're trying to help our graduates to do, is to open their eyes, to open their prospects, so that they actually have a more successful career afterwards.
Brilliant.
Great.
Thank you.
And to just wrap up our 10 questions, I'd like to know what your greatest achievement is, personal or professional. No problem.
So that's probably showing my age a bit, but at 23 was my degree. At 30 was my PhD. Then it was my students, and now sort of on a personal level, my girls that are growing up, and I want to make sure that they will be successful graduates one day as well. But overall, it's been a very pleasant journey through both professional and personal life.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much, Bogdan. Bogdan Gita is an Associate Professor of Network Performance and Security and Associate Dean International for the Faculty of Science and Engineering. Thanks, Bogdan, for joining us. And for all those of you watching, there are a number of other videos on our YouTube channel, so please do feel free to go and check those out as well. So thanks, Toby, too, for joining me and asking a question. Thanks again, Bogdan. And that's great. Thanks, everybody, for watching.